And now it's an absolute honour to introduce a woman who served for 10 years at the UN Refugee Agency as its head of global communications, and before that worked for the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and Radio Free Europe. She is a TED speaker, author of the book A Hope More Powerful Than the Sea, and hosts the award-winning UN podcast Awake at Night. Now the Under-Secretary General for Global Communications at the United Nations, please welcome the extraordinary Melissa Fleming, who will be speaking with Sophia Kiani live in New York.
Hello, great to be with you.
Melissa, it's so great to see you again. I have seen you before as part of the UN's Youth Advisory Group on climate change, and I'm so excited that we're both here today to talk about the Day of Peace. So can you tell us, why is this day so important to you?
Well, because it's important to all of us, because it makes not just us stop, but those who are waging war stop, even if it's just for 24 hours, and reflect, those of us who are not at war, what peace means. Those who are, lay down your arms for a day. What is the point of this? Unfortunately, this day is needed more than ever before because there are so many conflicts raging around the world. The war in Ukraine, I think, is a huge wake-up call. It's moving us all backwards. People are dying every day. There are towns and villages being destroyed. And, let us use this day, the International Day of Peace, established by the UN General Assembly, which is meeting right now. I just rushed out of the General Assembly to come here, where the President of the United States is still speaking. 21 December, when all the leaders of the world gather here, the leaders of the world who have the possibility to make our world a more peaceful place, to really fight for peace. And that's what we need to do.
And when we talk about the role of the United Nations and all of this, the UN is navigating one of the most complex situations that humanity has ever faced in relation to the increase in violence and destruction of resources. And so what is your view on this? How have we ended up in this point, and what can we do moving forward?
Well, indeed, yesterday, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, delivered his remarks to the General Assembly opening the General Assembly, and he used the term that our world is in great peril. And why are we in great peril? It's because there are the wars and the conflicts that are still that are causing just so much death, human suffering, displacement, destruction, despair. But also we have war being waged on our planet. We have a climate emergency. And the ripple effects of all of this, a cost of living crisis around food and fuel, a broken global financial system, and, to exacerbated and deep inequalities. So what we need more than anything is peace, because at the heart of all of this is the devastation and the ripple effects that war causes. We're seeing that with the Ukraine war, that it's horrific for Ukraine and horrific for the region, but it has ripple effects all across the world. So we're all suffering. And we know that Ukraine is not just the only conflict. We have Yemen, we have Ethiopia, we have the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We have instability in large numbers of countries, and the aftermath of conflicts like in Syria and Afghanistan. But the other thing this day allows us to do is to say we must not lose hope, and that there are ways to build peace. There are ways to engage in dialogue with each other and to demonstrate the compassion and the empathy that we have for all of us. So yes, that's also the message that we wanted to deliver here. Don't give up. We can work towards peace, and we must.
Like you said, the UN Secretary General said a lot in his address to the world. And one of the themes of today that he really touched upon was eliminating racism. And so, can you talk to us about how important is eliminating racism if we want to live in a more peaceful and sustainable world? And how are we going to do that? How are we going to achieve eliminating racism?
Well, if we look at the origins of war, a lot of a lot of it stems from hatred and hatred of the other. So I think it's really important that we contemplate the theme for this year, which is achieving a more peaceful and sustainable world also means eliminating racism, building societies where everyone has equal opportunities and can live in dignity. So if we have this kind of world where people are treated equally, regardless of their race, then the likelihood of conflict and division and people taking up arms to kill each other is less. And it's just, obviously we'll have richer societies for it. We'll have a more humane world. So that's our theme. Let's speak out against hate speech, both online and offline, and let's promote anti-racism through education and through reparatory justice, and just stand for equality for human beings everywhere.
I know for me, I get so much passion and inspiration from all the incredible young people that I work with every single day. And I want to pose that question to you. Where do you get your passion and your inspiration from?
Well, I have to say, from many of the people that the UN serves, and the UN is there to serve the most vulnerable people on our earth. And I had the privilege to work for 10 years at the UN Refugee Agency and travel to war zones and refugee camps and meet the people who were forced to flee wars and persecution, and not just to see how miserable they were, because many of them were still living and suffering in exile, not being given the chance to rebuild their lives, but they did have resilience, and sometimes they were faced with remarkable humanity of others. And in fact, I was here the other day. For Peace Day, we had a gathering of youth at the UN here, and all of a sudden, this young, I think he just is entering university. Young guy came up to me, gave me this huge hug, and he said, "Remember, we met. You met me at the Kakuma refugee camp, and I was in the unaccompanied minors section. I had been there for 6 years, and now I'm just entering university here. I was given the chance of resettlement to the United States. A foster family took me in the Bronx. I'm their son of 5 or 6. It just warmed my heart, because there's so many levels of resilience there and humanity. The world needs so much more of it, and it gives me the inspiration and the motivation to speak out for it, to advocate for a more humane world.
I know that I have had the privilege of working closely with the UN and the UN Secretary General for the last 2 years, and I know that so many people admire the work that you at the UN are doing. So I'd love to ask you, how can people get involved and support the work of the UN? Where should they go?
Well, first of all, we can't do it alone. The UN is probably, for many people, they think there's this huge institution that is out there, changing the world and helping people. But while we are big, the problems of the world are enormous, and we need everybody to pitch in. So, we're asking, follow us, see what we're doing in your communities, see what the needs are, but get involved. I mean, you don't need to directly get involved in the UN, but get involved in the cause that you really believe in, whether it is climate action, whether it is helping refugees, this is going to be a huge contribution if everyone did one thing. Speak out against racism. We do have a webpage because this is the theme here, Fight Racism. There are lots of tips there and concrete actions you could take. And you could also join forces or get to see what you as an individual could do by signing up to our Act Now app, where you can see what kind of actions you could take on a daily basis that will significantly contribute to reducing emissions and making our communities more sustainable. So do join forces with us. And thank you so much also for what you do, Sophia.
Thank you so much. You guys heard it. Let's all join forces and work on creating a more peace and justful world. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much.